Welcome to the first ever episode of Kimmel and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox, actor, singer, occasional writer and producer. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague and friend, writer, director, and occasional actor, Mr. Dylan Kimmel. Wow, we are here.
Yeah,
we're doing this. How long have we been talking about doing a podcast now?
it has been almost like maybe 2 years.
Maybe more than that.
Maybe
seems
more.
like it's been a while. It's a few years at least. Yeah, I think those seeds were planted a little while ago, but now we're here. We're finally doing it. I'm excited. Let's do this. Let's go. So we're going to be talking about all kinds of things on here within the entertainment world. We're going to be talking about movies and TV and pop culture and just about anything you can think of in entertainment. There's going to be something for everybody, and we are really looking forward to having you all join us on this part of our journey. And there's going to be lots of great things coming, and so we hope you'll join us here each week, every Thursday, new episodes every Thursday. And we don't have a permanent location as of yet. So if you see the background changing from week to week, then that's why, because we don't have a permanent studio space, if you will. But we are working on that, and maybe you guys can even help us with that a little bit, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But for this episode, I thought we would actually start out just by talking a little bit about ourselves and the things that we have worked on in the entertainment industry so far. A little bit about our careers and. So Dylan, let's start with you. Tell all of our viewers and listeners, a little bit about yourself and what made you want to become a filmmaker, and just tell us a little bit about your journey and some of the projects that you've worked on and things.
Well, I'd say that I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was very, very young. Maybe I didn't even know what a filmmaker was when I was that little, but I knew I wanted to tell stories. And what better way than a visual media? And I will say that I remember actually getting asked this question while we were filming a short film. It was the last one that we did, actually. We were sitting around at the table at my grandmother's table.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it was Brandon, right? Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon Austin.
Yeah. And he had asked us, what made us actually get into that. And I don't think I had a very definitive answer of, who it was. Like, I think most people would probably expect someone like some sort of cinephile to actually say, Alfred Hitchcock or Stanley Kubrick, someone, or Martin Scorsese, those very artsy filmmakers. And they always stick to like that one particular genre. And to tell you the truth, I never really grew up watching any of their films. But there was one director who even sometimes collaborated with another director, and I'm sure you're familiar with that director as well. So it was one of these two filmmakers. So the main one being Steven Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
Steven Spielberg, he's a master at changing whichever genre. He can go wherever he pleases. And that's something I aspire to do. I think you've noticed that with some of the films that we've done together.
And he started so young too. I mean, he was only like in his 20s, I think, maybe early to mid 20s when he made Jaws, and that was only his, I think, think that was only maybe like his third film ever.
Yeah, because his first movie was Duel.
Right.
Um,
he did another one a couple of years later with Goldie Hawn.
Was that
called the Sugarland Express? Yeah.
Sugarland Express.
And then so he went from that, and then Jaws was like epic. That was like the first ever big summer blockbuster movie. And from then on, I mean, he wrote his name in history
he's one of my, I'd say, because I didn't have an answer for him then. That's my answer now. It's Steven Spielberg, and I don't know why. Because maybe I was still searching for that artsy director. I mean, but the truth of the matter is that you don't have to be an artsy director to make a stamp on it.
Right.
I mean, maybe people would consider him an artsy director, but I don't. He's not. Yeah. I mean, yes, he is art.
He can be, yeah. I think...
but when I'm thinking of artsy director, I'm thinking of someone that's going for the Oscar, and I don't think he really necessarily goes for the Oscar.
Maybe more so now than he did then. I don't think he ever thought that those early films, would have the impact that they did at that time. But it's like now he knows how to make a blockbuster film, and you can almost guarantee that just about anything that he puts his name on, it's going to be major. It's going to be a hit.
Yeah. So I'd say that would be the start of where my my filming bug came from, was that. And then I'd gather around my cousins and be like, okay, this is where you are. This is the character you're playing. I remember, I was the nerdy cousin, but somehow I was able to get all my cousins together. Like you know how you have the jock kind of cousin, or you have the one cousin that kind of is kind of looks like he'd sell drugs or something. But I was the nerd one. And the funniest thing is the nerd cousin, I don't recall the nerd cousin actually, maybe it's just how it's painted in like films and stuff like that, but the nerd cousin is usually like the black sheep or whatever. But I remember all my cousins being like, hey, Dylan, come over. And the funniest thing is I'd say, okay, here's the story, here's what we're doing. I came up with so many ideas like that. And they were off the walls and stuff. I feel like a child's imagination is like where the best stories come from too, because I still hold on to those ideas.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But I'd say that's where I got started, and then and I feel like when because it's always been there, but once we met in like 2015,
right? Yeah,
and I mean, I feel like maybe that was probably not the most ethical way of filming anything, was it? Because you basically were auditioning the day of filming.
Well, yeah, I know you were kind of struggling to find your two actors. You were scrambling because this was a project for one of your film classes, and you were kind of panicking because, the deadline was approaching. You still didn't have your two lead actors, and you reached out to local, model and talent agency, which is how you found me and Adam, because, they sent out an email to both of us, and really we didn't have to audition. It was just like, Janie, who was the head of the agency, just emailed the two of us, thinking that we would be perfect, for those roles, and recommended us to you. And yeah, it was literally like, I think we got the script like the day before or a couple days before we were supposed to shoot.
And there was no dialogue.
And there was absolutely no dialogue. It was totally unique in that we had to try to communicate what was going on without being able to say anything.
That might have been a very good acting exercise. It
really was. I certainly had never done anything like that before, but it turned out to be really effective, and I remember you saying because I didn't get to actually go to the official premiere.
Adam did. I remember him coming over afterwards, and I don't even think he expected it to be any good. I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, I'm proud of it still, but each time I look at I guess that's what every director does, is kind of nitpick at, I could have done something better with that.
Yeah.
My one nitpick at it is the audio, there not being any dialogue, which I kind of redeemed later on. Actually, I tried to redeem it like twice, I think.
Right. Yeah. We've remade it, and the film that we're talking about it's called The Deed. But yeah, we've literally remade it twice now.
And the third one, I'm really proud of the third one, even though Adam wasn't involved in it. You took over his role,
and it was different. It was interesting to see because obviously the first one didn't have any dialogue, so we really didn't get a good sense of what each character was like.
Yeah.
But that was interesting for me too, to play the other side of it and to play the hitman and to do my take on what I thought that character was going to be. And
the interesting thing is that I actually did. I came up with one of the solutions. You know how when we were writing when I was writing Incentive to Kill, how everyone was saying this scene, it doesn't fit anymore in that. And I was like struggling. I was like, but we need it. It's we didn't need it. No, we didn't. But I figured out how to make it work. Exactly how we filmed it that day. That's exactly what should have happened in the film. Is like, it really, I don't want to spoil anything, because we actually did. It's being processed in a film festival right now, and I feel like I'm very hopeful. I'm crossing my fingers. I mean, there's no guarantee. It's still being processed, but yeah. But I'd say that was probably that first short film was like the start of pretty good collaboration and friendship between everybody.
It definitely was. We've worked together on I guess a total of 5 projects now. Trying to think. Well, no, 6 actually, counting the 2 projects that didn't work out, that didn't actually go into production, which we could devote a whole podcast just to to projects that didn't make it off the ground. But we had 4 films that were successfully made, and
we haven't done a feature.
3 of which I think were pretty good.
You've done a feature. I've not done a feature yet.
Yeah.
But that's because I felt like I was not ready yet, and truthfully, I feel like now I've learned a whole lot through the process of you learn by failing.
Yeah.
So and I have failed a lot, especially with that feature, and it was I feel like I might have angered a few people during that, but
I don't know. I don't know.
But maybe that's just my perception of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we're
harder on ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I'm always my own worst critic, and so sometimes when something like that happens, you feel like you failed, but I don't think anybody else necessarily looked at it that way. I think they were excited about the project. I think they were excited, to work with us and everything. But they understand these things happen, and you and I are of the same mind that
even happens in big time Hollywood too.
Yeah, I mean, if we both are on the same page with that kind of thing, where we feel like if we can't do it right, we're not going to do it. We're not going to attempt it, and just the money wasn't there. You have to have, especially for projects of that level and for being a feature. With a lot of action and things like that, you have to have the financial backing. You have to have a budget. You can do it, without a budget, if everybody's willing to do that, to work hard. Certainly there have been, really good projects that have been made for, little to no money at all. But everybody has to be on board with that. Everybody has to be willing to put in the work, knowing that they're not going to get any compensation for it. But again, we'll definitely talk about a little bit more in depth about some of the those projects that we've worked on together, and it did lead to the formation of our production company.
Yes,
Erroneous Deeds.
Erroneous Deeds.
And by production company, I mean me, Dylan, and whatever skeleton crew we can scare up to work on. Pretty much every project that we've worked on, it's been like basically the actors and a DP and maybe a sound and lighting operator, and that's it. But considering that.
And the only two people that actually doesn't change is me and you.
Right. We've been the constant. Because usually we end up wearing a lot of hats. It's sometimes actor, writer, producer, director. It's kind of, we're doing a little bit of everything, and that can be tough sometimes, when you put all of that, on yourself. I know, for my journey, like you, it goes way back to a very early age. I knew from the time I was about 3 years old, I knew that I wanted to be an actor. And for everybody that, that movie or whatever it is that inspires people to go down that path, it's different for everybody. Mine may seem a little bit random or odd, but actually it goes back to the very first movie that I can ever remember watching as a child. Again, I was probably about 3 or 3.5. Was The Love Bug. It was the classic 1969 Disney film. Dean Jones.
Dean Jones. Yeah. Don Knotts was in a sequel.
He was in one of the Herbie sequels. Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo.
That's right.
But I saw that for the first time on VHS. A lot of our listeners probably won't even know what a VHS is anymore. It's like it's such a lost.
Anyone born from 2000 onward does not know what a VHS is.
They don't understand that. They don't understand video rental stores or anything like that.
R.I.P. Blockbuster.
I can remember that. I can remember, going to the video store with my dad and seeing that, seeing the cover, of that movie and with Herbie driving on two wheels and everything, and I just thought, this looks like it. It would be a really cool, movie, and from like pretty much the instant that I popped it in, like I was hooked. It had a little bit of everything. It had comedy, it had action, it had drama, it had a little bit of romance. It had. The special effects, were revolutionary for its time. There were so many great visuals in that movie. It had all these like elaborate matte paintings that were used for backgrounds and stuff. And so now looking back on it, it's like I loved it then as a kid.
Yeah.
But now looking at it in a different way, it's like I appreciate all these other, elements to it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, Dean Jones, and he was such a talented actor, and just his performance in that and everything. Like, I remember because when you're that small, you don't really understand the concept of acting and everything. So you're thinking that what you're seeing, you're thinking that all of that is like real, or that these characters are like real people. And so I remember my parents kind of explaining to me that that this was all like pretend, and that these people are actors, they're playing characters, and and so that's like when the light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, well, that would be like the best way to make a living. What better way to to earn a living than to basically you're getting paid to play pretend. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like being an actor. It's like, in a sense, you don't have to grow up. It's like you can literally be anything you want to be. It's like if you want to be a race car driver, you can play one. In a movie, and it's so that kind of fueled the fire for me, and from then on, as a kid, I always had a really active imagination. Was always playing out these imaginary scenes and stuff with friends growing up, and sort of creating our own little fictional worlds, and I was always doing impressions and making my friends and classmates laugh and stuff, and actually I was much better at doing impressions then than I am now, but it just pretty much performing at every opportunity, doing talent shows and things like that. And somewhere around, I guess I was maybe 13 or so when I developed an interest in singing too. And I would go in my room and just crank up the music really loud and just sing along, with my favorite artists, and I think my dad had a lot to do with that as well, because he enjoyed singing, and back then, he always enjoyed country music and Southern gospel and stuff, which as a kid, initially, I didn't really appreciate it. And maybe that's just because you don't want to find yourself liking the same things that your parents like, because it's like, oh, it's not cool. I couldn't stand country music, but then I came to love it. And,
I have the same thing because my dad listens to bluegrass music, plays that banjo all the time, or he did. He doesn't have a banjo anymore, but like he'll be playing that, and my little sister, my half sister, she finds it so annoying and everything like that. But yeah, I can relate to that because I'll do the same. I'm like, you know what? That actually is pretty catchy. The little tune there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
And and then I guess it was I was about 16 when I really started I guess actively pursuing acting. That was when I got my first role in a play, which was a musical, actually. It was called Scrooge, the Stingiest Man in Town, which, as you can guess, was a sort of a retelling or reimagining of A Christmas Carol. And then from then on, I did, I was in several other productions throughout, high school and college, like Clue the musical, and Arsenic and Old Lace, and
I would have loved the Arsenic and Old Lace.
Yeah, that was fun. I played Dr. Einstein in that. I did in college. I was in The Importance of Being Earnest, and we actually did an adaptation of. Oh gosh, now that's like I'm having a brain fart. I can't think of the name of it. Shoot. It was a Nicolas Cage movie. Gosh, what was that? I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, there was like we did like a theatrical version of that film, and but then I kind of got away from acting for a long time. I think I kind of let my parents and some other people kind of get in my head and sort of convince me that acting was such an unstable career. Like, why would anybody ever want to do that? It's not, the money is not guaranteed. It's just, you never know, when those projects are going to come your way. And so I sort of bought into all that. And about halfway through my junior year in college, I changed majors. I started out as a theater major, and then I switched to communications. Mm-hmm. And the thought process behind that was, I kind of thought that, if I wasn't going to be an actor, that, I thought maybe I might like to be a broadcaster. I thought that might be a good fallback career. And then I didn't end up doing anything with that either. I graduated college and I just started working all of these normal jobs and just kind of going from one thing to another and just not really being happy doing anything that I was doing, just doing that daily grind. And so the turning point for me came in 2015. I was actually working as a restaurant manager in training, which now to think of that baffles me that I would have even tried that, because I had never worked in the food service industry before up to that point. But their training program was pretty intensive. It was like a 90-day training program to become a manager. They basically teach you all the different aspects of running a restaurant, and you basically have to work every position in the restaurant. You have to have experience serving and bartending, working in the kitchen, working as a host. And so, because they want you to have a grasp of just how all the different processes work. But it's a lot. And I came to figure that out really quick, just how stress-inducing running a restaurant can be. But I did it because, the money was good. And I thought, I'd be making a really good salary. And I was kind of chasing the money a little bit there, looking for a solid, career. But it was clear that I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have a passion for it. And the general manager knew that. And so it became clear that I just, I was not cutting it. And, he had that conversation with me, and I'll never forget that, because he sat down with me and he asked me, he said, it's clear that you really don't have a passion for this business. In order to succeed, you have to be passionate about it. And he said, what are you passionate about? He said, if you could be doing anything in the world that you want for a living, get paid for it, what would that be? And for me, it was like a no-brainer. I didn't even have to think about it. And I was like, well, it would be an actor. That's what I always wanted to do since I was a child. And so from then on, that's what, it got me, kind of got me turned around. And that's when I decided to pursue, acting as, as a career. And so I have that general manager to thank for that.
I have something to relate to that. Okay, so how I was going to go to a film school not too long ago, right? And that's kind of fallen by the wayside due to so many other circumstances we won't get into here. But just last night, similar conversation with a guy at work. He came up to me and he starts asking me a couple of questions and about, trying to get to know me. And of course, me being me, I'm always going to say, well, I really love film. That's kind of like my calling. I want to make films. I want to tell stories. Because I feel like movies are kind of a gateway to a person's soul. You understand a person through what types of movies they enjoy and stuff like that. It's a gateway to better understand who we are as people. And they talked to me, and I said I was going to go to film school, and then they're like, "Why didn't you? Why didn't you? Why stay? Why stay? If you're passionate about that, go out and go ahead and do it." Funniest thing is that not too long ago, I went to Comic-Con, and another thing happened. Giancarlo Esposito. I don't know if you know this actor, do you?
Yeah, I know the name.
Okay. Breaking Bad, he played the villain Gus Fring.
Okay. Yeah.
He's also in a couple of Spike Lee movies. For some reason, the names escape me, but as soon as we air off, I'll remember those names. But he even said that. He said, go out and do it. And this is exactly what this podcast is for. Is for people like me and you who are kind of in that same mindset of not understanding. You know, if they feel like they can't do this or anything like that.
Yeah.
It is tough.
Yeah, you don't want to, you don't want to have that regret of always wondering what if.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the fear for me, is like,
Yeah.
because I had never really given it an honest try, and
that-
I didn't want to go through the rest of my life.
Yeah.
At least I didn't want to say that, maybe I could have made it, maybe I could have done it. And the thing is, if you try and you fail, it's
At least
okay.
you did it.
But at least you tried.
Yeah. I mean, even if anybody, and I truly believe this, if you end up in a hard spot in life, at any point in your life, you are going to jump back out from it. There's no, I don't think I'm going to get out of this. I don't think it's going to happen. There is, you are.
Yeah.
And I think we all have that in our heads, is like, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I kind of look at it as I've already been able to do a lot. I mean, I've been very fortunate, very blessed in that respect. And, even though the majority of, what you and I have done up to this point has been like independent, we've done independent films. Mm-hmm. The few things that I've done on a larger scale, like a national scale, I've it's mostly been like background work. But from the moment I made that decision, back in 2015, one of the first things I did was I got hooked up with a local talent agency, because growing up, I just always was kind of taught, like, that's just what you do. Like, if you want to become a professional actor, you have to have representation, you have to have an agent, and there was only one agency like that in Lexington, which was Images Model and Talent Agency. And so I connected with them, and they were actually very helpful in getting me started, in the sense that I found out about a lot of projects and things that were being filmed and stuff through them, and that's actually how I got my first professional acting gig, which was being an extra on an episode of the TV show Nashville. It was an ABC series, and really popular series. And so, to me, that was like, awesome. Like my, not only my first professional acting gig, my first paid acting gig was to be on a, national, network television show. And what was even cooler was that even though I was background, I actually made it on camera, which, I mean, for your first time out as an extra is pretty rare, but it was like, I guess, the right place at the right time, and they, told me where to stand. And I was actually in several shots in this one scene, but there was only one where you could clearly see me. I mean, it was quick. It was very quick. But if you were looking, you couldn't miss me. And they're like, go, stand over here. And I was supposed to be like kind of mingling in the background, and then in that shot, Connie Britton, one of the actors from the show, the shot was she was going to walk into this bar, and she's kind of looking around, and then she finds the person that she's looking for, up on stage, singing, and I'm like, right in the background, kind of like right over her shoulder. And so I'm like, well, this is really cool, because I'm, Connie Britton, I knew her from Spin City. I don't know if you remember that sitcom with Michael J. Fox, you know, and so she, I remembered her from that. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I'm getting to be, in a scene with, with these, these big actors, and And so that was that was a really big turning point for me too. It was like, I'm already off to a good start. And then the very next thing I did was The Deed. That was the very next project.
Oh,
that
really?
I worked on.
That was the next thing.
Yeah, that was my second gig as a professional actor. So yeah, and I think it's funny that that you were part of that. You were part of that. Kind of the beginning of that that journey. Into my career, and then quite a few other things along the way, which I actually had to, because I've done so much now, and my memory fails me sometimes, so I had to kind of pull up my filmography or whatever just to go back and look at some of the things I worked on. And I'm not going to get into everything on here because it would just take way too much time, but just hitting some of the highlights. The next year in 2016, got a part in The Wicked One, which was a horror movie directed by Tori Jones, who is is already been doing some really cool stuff in the horror genre.
I've seen a few. He's been really booming.
Yeah, and so I was certainly thankful to him for putting me in that film, and for giving me a pretty nice little role in that. Even though I died, I think.
I don't remember. Did you die on screen or off screen?
No, it was off screen.
It was off screen.
I was kind of disappointed with that. Because they changed it. I think originally I was supposed to have an on-screen death, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great, get to die in a horror film. But then they, for whatever reason, they decided to change it. And
if you died off screen, you could have been in the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I could have, but yeah, it was still a lot of fun to work with, and a lot of had a terrific cast, a lot of great people worked on that film, and then later that same year, started working on a short film that I starred in called Jenkins Choice, which I know you remember that. Mm-hmm. We spent a lot of time, just for, it was like a 26-minute film, which is pretty long, for a short film. But I really enjoyed working on that. Chris Kelder, the director, I had worked with him on another project of his where he was serving as a producer. Brandon Austin actually directed it. Oh, really? A little short film called An Unfinished Portrait. That's how Chris and I met. Mm-hmm. And we got to talking, and he said, I have this script, for this short film called Jenkins Choice. It's about this, this 18-year-old, guy that he wants more than anything to become a country music singer, and I was like, oh well, that's like right up my alley because I love to sing and I love country music, and so that's kind of how all that came about, and it was an interesting project. I loved the fact that I got to act and sing, which it's like two of my favorite things, but it was tough. It had its challenges because Chris actually wrote the two songs for the film, but he's not a songwriter. He didn't have music or anything for these songs. He just basically had the lyrics, and so he kind of handed it to me, and he's like, just do what you can with it, however you think these songs are supposed to sound, just see what you can come up with, and then let me know. And I was like, man, I don't know how to do this. I'm not a songwriter either. I really don't even read music. Mm-hmm. I never have. I've never been great at reading music, and so that's not my gift. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So I came up with something and showed him what I had. He liked it. Ended up working with a guitar player, and we sort of came up with like a melody or whatever for the songs. And we managed to make it work. It was a pretty good little film. It was a faith-based film, inspirational film, which is that's kind of a tough genre anyway. But there were good things about it. It actually did pretty well. I mean, we entered it in several film festivals, Christian film festivals, and it did. It won some awards. The film itself won some awards. I've won a couple of awards for best actor or best musical performance.
Might even get it again with The Dirty Deed. That one,
right? Yeah. If that one makes it into, we're not going to put bad energy out there, but it's been submitted.
Yeah, it's been submitted and then forgotten. That's kind of like what I did. I just forgot about it.
But yeah, I mean, so and like I said, Jenkins' Choice. A lot of people liked it. I'm really, I guess, that comes with, being hard on yourself. But, I kind of look at it now, and there's things about it I'm not really necessarily proud of my performance or anything in there, especially the songs and stuff. Like now I look at it and I'm like, oh, that could have been better, So it's
pretty much every film that we've done, it's like we could have done something better with that.
Yeah. But we promoted the heck out of it. Chris and I even went on all of the local morning shows on like all of the major news stations. We did the local like ABC and NBC and CBS affiliates and Fox and because initially he thought about making a feature-length version of it, which so far hasn't come to pass. But it was still a fun project to work on, and Chris is a really great guy. One of the nicest people.
He's very nice. I've met him a few times after that too.
But I mean, it's like I said, it's all part of the journey, and you're going to have things in there that because I think other people see you and the things that you're doing differently than you see it yourself. And and then I ended up doing another horror film in 2017, Scream for Summer.
I hear that they're remaking it.
Cheyenne Gordon directed that, and that was a lot of fun. And this time, I got to actually put on a mask. I got to play the killer. I got to play the serial killer.
That must have been fun.
It was or
stunt.
Yeah, I was really the stunt double for the killer. Alicia Clark actually played the killer, who turned out to be the killer in that, and she's great, terrific actor, but Cheyenne decided that he didn't want her to do all of these scenes that had a lot of action and things and potentially get hurt or anything like that. So it's like we're just gonna let.
It's kind of frowned upon to be hurting your actors, which I have been known to do, as it was with you a few times.
I mean, a lot of actors want to do their own stunts because they want to, they want everybody to know that it's them. That's.
I'm actually I kind of take after Sam Raimi. I kind of been harsh on you when we're actually doing stuff.
Well, the thing, this was the funny thing, is that because I've never, played a role like this before. I mean, I grew up, loving, the slasher films and everything, Friday the 13th and Halloween and all that. So I knew the genre very well, and I felt like I knew how to play, a killer. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would, play a role like that. But it was funny because Cheyenne he had to kind of make me step things up a little bit. He had to keep telling me, like when I had to do these scenes where I had to kind of be violent or whatever. He's like, man, he's like, you gotta give it a little bit more. Like I'm supposed to be like pulling somebody's hair or like pushing them down the stairs or stuff like that. And I was kind of holding back a little bit because, like, obviously I didn't want to hurt the other actors.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's all right, man. He's like, they're he said, they'll be okay. He's like, he said, you got to make it, got to get aggressive. You got to make it look more aggressive. You got to make it look really violent or whatever. And that was just something that, because that's not at all me. So I was not really comfortable doing that. But I eventually kind of got into it and was able to, to deliver that performance or whatever. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working on that and just seeing the finished project. Later that same year, I got to work on a short film called Lonely a la Mode, which there was a special significance to that film because that is actually where I met
the
my
love
wife,
of your life,
Cynthia.
Yeah.
Yes, she was a fashion model at the time, and she learned about that project through her friend Samantha Moore, who was the costume designer on that film, and she had worked with her on some fashion shows and things like that. So, they basically needed to fill up this scene with a group of attractive women, and so she had reached out to Cynthia and asked her if she would come and do it basically as a favor to her, and so Cynthia ended up being kind of one of the featured extras. She was in quite a few scenes. She was on camera a lot, even though she didn't have any lines. And I was one of the the lead characters. And,
you were
I was a
pastor, lawyer. Oh.
Yeah, I was playing this backwoods Southern lawyer, and this millionaire playboy type, sort of a Hugh Hefner type or whatever, had just died, and all of these women were gathered there basically for the reading of his will. Mm-hmm. He had. He was going to leave each of them like $50,000, but there was a stipulation. In order for them to earn that money, they had all of these things that they were going to have to carry out. They basically had to, prove that they were mourning his death and grieving for him and everything. And he had this crazy thing where he wanted them to carry his casket down the middle of Main Street, basically parade him, down the street and make this big show of everything. And so Cynthia played one of the pallbearers, so she got to be one of the ladies that had to carry his casket. Funny thing was they filmed that in the middle of the Thriller parade in downtown Lexington.
Oh, really?
The parade allowed them to be a part of that. And so they got to march through downtown Lexington carrying a casket on their shoulders.
That is something.
But yeah, that was a really fun film to work on too, and obviously it changed my life in other ways too.
Mm-hmm. Married. And you even you married into a family too. You got
I did because Cynthia has
and I gotta say, I remember beforehand you never thought you would actually have this sort of responsibility of being like a
I really didn't think I was ever going to get to be a dad because I had been married a couple of times before and didn't have any kids of my own. But Cynthia had two daughters, and even though they were grown, they were already grown. When we met, I've gotten really close to both of them, and now they both call me dad. And that's really a wonderful feeling, and something I certainly didn't think I would ever get to experience, and just for them to look at me as a father figure. I mean, there's no better compliment than that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really grateful for that. And if I hadn't made that decision to get back into acting, to pursue acting,
you wouldn't
never would have happened. So the Lord works in mysterious ways, as they say, and I think that's really proof of that. and then of course you and I worked on a few more projects.
So yes,
so it was a Soul Adrift.
A Soul Adrift,
which was the last.
That was the last one that even I've done.
Right, yeah, that was the last one that we worked on together.
That was back in 2018. 2018, I believe it was. It was 2018 or 2019? I
think it was 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. And that, I think, just showed the progress that we had made. Because if you think about it, I mean, every project that we've worked on together, each one has gotten better.
Yeah.
Visually, story-wise, it's like we're going up. I mean, that's the way you want to do.
I think I've perfected the one-shot thing where it's like two people conversing. I perfected that pretty well. It's the whole different sets that I still need to get used to. But I'd say that A Soul Adrift was... It was
dark.
Oh, yeah, it was
a very dark film. I mean, the subject matter was, dealing with the afterlife and things like that, and basically being kind of tormented, for things you had done, to people in the past, and it's a very heavy stuff. But
and I mean, and it's an interesting thing where I go back and forth, like it's a palate cleanser. Okay, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we go when you're working with me, it goes from a comedy to a dark thing, then it goes back to the comedy.
We kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, it's kind of a palate cleanser. I mean, the way I am, I mean, you need some sort of uplifting after you had like a depressing moment, I feel like. So, even, I mean, I'm going through that right now. I need that uplift, personally. But it's an interesting thing where, okay, so we did The Deed. Then we did, there was something else. What was it?
Let's see. Well, we did, we basically did The Deed 3 times.
Yeah.
We did A Soul Adrift, and well, we had we started working on Incentive to Kill, which was based on The Deed. It was basically a feature length version of The Deed, and we started working on that, and just fell apart because there was just no budget.
No way. I might be in over my head here, thinking that there's one in the middle there somewhere, but I might be thinking of the one I did before you called Desolation, which was not very good, because that, as most people might not realize, the first film that your favorite filmmaker has made, you go back and see like their very first thing, it's not very good. It's not very good at all.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, I think, everybody has to start out small, and because you're learning. It's a constant learning process.
And I'd say if anyone were to go back to that one, they'd see the learning process starting. So I might be thinking on that.
I was trying to think. There's like so many. There's so many other projects and things that I could talk about, and certainly probably get into some more of that, on a future episode.
I mean, we've even got a few that we are trying to work on ourselves.
Yeah.
Like I think we have like 3. We have 3 shorts that we want to work on. We have like 3 features. I think there's one. We want to do one that's closer to home for us too.
Yeah. Something that we can both really, relate to. And,
yeah.
I did a film in, when was it? 2019 is when I met, actually, no, I think we met before that, but Matthew Kistenmacher, who I've mentioned to you many times, really talented filmmaker. His expertise has primarily been like with lighting. He's a great gaffer. He has a just great sense of lighting, but he has so much knowledge about just all different aspects of filmmaking, and worked with him on a short film called Sulky, which actually was a BCTC student project. It was part of their summer boot camp, film boot camp thing.
Yeah.
And so he served more as like a supervising producer, but he was basically kind of guiding everybody along through that process and showing the students where to place the camera, where to place the lights, how to frame everything up, and so he really kind of orchestrated that whole thing. And visually, I think it's one of the best, if not the best, film that I've worked on so far, as far as aesthetics and visually the way everything.
I've
came
seen
together,
bits and pieces of it, and I have to say that does look really really good. And not actually seen the film, but I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah,
so.
it was good. I was very proud of that, and hopefully I'll get the chance to work with him again. I know we had talked about doing he has this short film. Originally, it was written as a feature, but he shortened it to make it a little bit more manageable. But it's called Wendell Watkins is Dead, and basically, if we end up making that happen, I would be playing basically a washed-up jockey who's pretty much living off of booze and painkillers, and he's kind of like mourning his. He used to be like a champion jockey, and so now he's kind of mourning the good old days, and kind of the way things used to be. And it's a really good script, and it's got a little mix of humor, and it's maybe a little bit on the dark side, but we had been talking about that, and I think that he's planning on maybe shooting that in the spring. So hopefully I'll get a chance to work on that. I think that's going to be a really great project. But the most recent thing, I guess, that I worked on was a little short film called Anna the K, which was a Christmas themed film where I actually played an elf from Texas, if you can believe that. It was pretty. It was a really funny little script, and written by Don Lampton, and pretty funny concept, and it actually it was accepted into the Louisville International Film Festival this year. I hadn't really heard anything on that. I don't think we won anything, but just to be accepted in that, was certainly honor enough. And that's the second film now that I've been in that made it into the Louisville International Film Festival. Last year it was Lonely a la Mode, and that one actually won for best short film, which was really cool. So yeah, I mean I've been beyond blessed to be involved with the types of projects that I have, and just that they've been it seems pretty successful.
It seems so funny that I feel like you need to knock me over the head for not actually putting any of my films into a festival sooner.
Oh, I think
even the first Deed, the first one, like even I was even told that could have been good enough to be put in.
Oh, sure, because it was different. It was so different than anything else that anybody had done. And
I think the interesting thing is that I'd say that you, even Adam, had knocked me over the head a few times afterwards for not actually utilizing the camera myself. I feel like you might, like, you haven't actually said it, but I felt that energy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, is that what you're thinking to yourself? It's like, why aren't you holding the camera yourself? Because I really liked what you did there with the camera in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that thing of sometimes because obviously you have to put your trust in your camera operator and everything, but sometimes to carry out your vision, it's one of those things where sometimes you're just better off. Doing it yourself, so that you make sure you get exactly, what you want.
I mean, all respect to the more recent The Deed, because I do love the dialogue and everything, but I think once I started editing it myself, you got to see the little. I mean, I'm actually a lot more happy with the newer edit. I think you are too.
Oh yeah.
But it probably would have been. Would you say I probably should have held on to that camera there on that one? Or, I mean, truth be told, though, I'm not saying that the camera angles aren't bad or anything like that. Just I wish that we gotten a little bit more creative with it.
Yeah. But again, it comes back to, you can always go back and look at things and say, well, I could have done that better.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to look at it as that's just part of my journey. We've learned a lot since then. And, I think whatever our next project ends up being, it's going to be even better than the last thing that we worked on. So, I think we're just about out of time here.
We are.
Time goes by really fast. I mean, again, we could talk, for hours about all of this stuff, but I don't know if we would. We would keep everybody's attention for that long.
Shoot, I don't know. I was already paranoid earlier about.
We have no shortage of subject matter to talk about on this podcast. I don't think we're ever going to run out of things to discuss.
There's so much.
But before we go. Just want to remind everybody you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So be sure to look us up on there, Kimmel and Cox, and it would really you'd really be doing us a great service if you would follow us on there, and be sure to subscribe where applicable. And certainly the likes are important too, but the likes are not everything. What we really need is those subscribers, and of course, share those links with your friends. Tell everybody about the podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. It can only get better from here, folks. Again, we're just kind of starting out here, so we're still getting our feet wet a little bit and kind of figuring things out. But if you stick with us, it's going to be great, and I think you're really going to enjoy some of the things that are coming down the road. Also, want to direct you to our Patreon page. You guys can actually play a big part in helping us with this podcast. If you go to Patreon, every dollar that you donate will go towards things like production costs and just helping to make this the best possible podcast that it can be.
Maybe we won't have technical issues like we have.
We've had some technical difficulties with this one today, and hopefully that will all work out. In the end, we kind of had some audio problems, but it's okay. We're going to get that worked out. But yeah, I mean, just contributing. You can help us out, and we may actually be able to offer you some really cool stuff in the future. Maybe some merchandise. T-shirts and hats and keychains and coffee mugs and I don't know, whatever else you could. We'll come up with something, but certainly every little bit that you can give helps us out a lot, because we can't do this without you. We're just a couple of ordinary guys. We have day jobs outside of this, and so we're just kind of doing this in our free time because we enjoy it, and whenever our schedules can come together. But definitely check out that Patreon page and take a look at some of the benefits that we have on there, because if you we're not just gonna we're not just gonna give not give you anything. I mean, if you're going to contribute, then we're going to give you something for your money. So go and check that out. And
there's some great benefits to check. Check it out.
We've got some really cool stuff on there. So be sure to take a look at that, and come back next week. Next week, we will be talking about A Christmas Story Christmas, which, if you don't know, is the long-awaited sequel to what many have regarded as a Christmas classic, A Christmas Story, the 1983 film that has become quotable. Like they play it 24/7 at Christmas time. And so they have finally made a sequel to this movie. You can stream it exclusively on HBO Max. And so we're going to be digging into that a little bit next week. So again, go to our socials, leave your comments, questions on there. If you haven't seen A Christmas Story Christmas yet, go and watch it. Because if you haven't seen it, I'm just going to tell you, this is not going to be a spoiler-free podcast. So if you haven't seen the movie, definitely go check it out because we're going to be really digging into all the details, and so if you haven't seen it, we don't want to spoil that for you. But yeah, that's I think that's going to wrap it up for today. And be here next week. And until then, be good to yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
You dipstick.